I think now, I think that Chelsea, having won the European Cup twice, Chelsea being London's only representative in that exclusive club, Chelsea's success over the past 2 decades, I think has reset it. And if it hasn't reset it, I think when I was growing up, so through the mid-90s, Arsenal were there and Chelsea were there. I think what's happened over the years is it's gone to that, and it all started. I think the genesis of Chelsea being more relevant in this conversation, it was Wayne Bridge.
It's Lee Judge's TV for all my gooners, all my gunners. Yeah, you know where to be. Subscribe to the channel, cause you know it's a lot with the legendary judges and the one damn pot.
Hi everyone, welcome to Lee Judge's TV and a new episode with The Night with the Judge. And today I'm with the one and only Rory Jennings.
Thank you for having me. I'm honoured to be here.
Yeah, thanks for... Listen, I've got a big thank you because we met, didn't we? And you actually said to me, Lee, you've got to get your channel sorted because you was the one that really was the inspiration, I have to say, the inspiration for me doing this.
It's a huge statement and a really generous appraisal. I appreciate it massively. I'm really glad that you took the plunge, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm having a go, as you say, with a new studio now. And I'm going to say this, thank you very much for coming on because I know you're a busy man.
No, never too busy for you, Lee. It's an honour. It's an honour to be here. This is a very impressive setup you've got.
Well, this is what the judge does. You know what I mean? Like, he delivers.
Are you enjoying it? The YouTube experiment, the foray into it.
I am enjoying it. Like, completely different to what I thought it was. And I'll tell you what's one fascinating thing that I've done or learnt about it. So it was the work that goes on about it, and that's why like yourself. To do what you're doing and all that, I've got so much admiration because you have to put a lot of work in, which people don't really see.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it is a slog at times, but it's fun, isn't it? And at least we're doing it. At least we're doing something that we kind of enjoy and something that we love.
Well,
talking about.
Exactly. Someone said to me the other day, it ain't work.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, the fact that I left my wife and kid earlier today. They're at home, and honestly, we live in a fairly small flat with a 2-year-old. The ceiling's crumbling down, right? The ceiling's crumbling down, and my wife Victoria's going, "Oh, come on, can you help?" I can't. I've got to go to work. I've come here. I've met you boys. I've had a coffee. I've had a coffee on the canal. Grafting.
Yeah, it's
proper pat rafting.
It's a tough life, isn't it? So listen, what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about a little bit about yourself and get to know you a little bit, and from the point of view, and then we're going to hit with a few questions. Obviously, it's going to come up. Chelsea and Arsenal, and we can have a little chat. Why you're a Chelsea fan, and
I look forward to that. The Chelsea and Arsenal debate is something that, if we were having this conversation 2 decades ago, would have been something I wasn't looking forward to.
Yeah, I suppose turned around a little bit. But I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't think there's a real hatred between Chelsea and Arsenal. I think there's a rivalry, but I don't think there's a hatred where it is like that with Arsenal and Spurs, Chelsea and Spurs.
No, I agree. I think the rivalry is definitely tense. So Arsenal is one of the fixtures that I look for first when the fixtures are announced. When are we playing Arsenal? That does mean something to me. But you're right, the hatred isn't quite there. The rivalry feels strong, but there isn't that tense atmosphere the way that there is with certain other clubs.
Yeah, and I think that dare I say it? I think since Mourinho's gone, there has been that little bit more of a mellowing to both sides.
Yeah, I think there's that also. I think particularly when I was young, Arsenal just was so much better than Chelsea, and sometimes even when you weren't so much better, you would always get the victory.
Yeah.
Like there was one that I can remember that really haunted me. We played really well at Highbury, and we actually deserved the victory. We ended up losing, and I don't know if you can remember it, but Thierry Henry scored. The ball went through Carlo Cudicini's legs.
2-1. I think it was 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah,
I think we went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
Crespo might have scored, and then ultimately Cudicini got nutmegged, and we lost. And you just left the ground, and you kind of thought, are we ever going to... I hate playing Arsenal, because whatever's going on, whatever we do, they seem to do better. We score 2, you score 3. We score in the last minute, you get 1+4. It was like that. But thankfully, the tide has turned a bit, so we can explore.
Thankfully, we'll explore that, you know what I mean? So right, first of all, where was you born? Where was your upbringing?
I was born here, literally here. I was born on Parade Street in Paddington, St Mary's Hospital.
That's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So school round here as well, then,
School on Lisson Green, Marylebone. Lisson Green, yeah.
So
That's in the same building where I went to Scouts, 9th Marylebone.
So did you play football as a school?
Yeah,
in the school team and all things like that?
Played all my life. Truly love it. I think that now, I don't know if you've noticed this, if you've got older, I've loved it more and more. And it's got to the stage now. You know, even when you're having your leisure time, because of the pressures on you, life pressures, I can find that even if I'm in the pub with my mates, I might still check my emails and see how work's going. Even if I'm in the cinema, I might take a work call. I'm always kind of preoccupied and worried about the conditions of life because we have a lot of stresses and time's been quite hard, hasn't it, over the past few years. Football for me is my one release. It's the one time when for an hour and a half, I'm literally doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Possibly badly, but to the best of my ability. Yeah. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm not worrying if I can pay my kids' nursery fees. I'm not worried if my mum needs help with a shop. I'm not worried about anything. I'm literally just playing football.
Focus on it.
Yeah.
And it's true. And
it's a release, football for me now.
It is. And do you know what? One of my old managers turned around to me and said, I think I got sent off somewhere and I was getting a ban and he said, look, you know, you're getting all these bans and everything like that. You've got a 10-year window before you know it goes. Yeah. And my God, it does go quickly.
Yeah,
like,
but you still play. I follow you on Instagram. You play regularly, don't you?
I still play, still playing a bit of fetch football and that. And I'll tell you, the one great thing about doing all this sort of stuff now is you get to play charity games.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
And and some I've had some good charity games. Like, have you had some good charity games?
Well, I played fairly recently on Stamford Bridge. That was a moment. I mean, it was a surreal
That must be
moment.
surreal.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, I've played at certain grounds previously. Like, I played at Loftus Road, and I think it's one of those where, irrespective of the ground, obviously Chelsea, it means something so much more to me. But I would love to play at any stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if somebody said, "Oh, do you want a game at Brentford? Do you want a game at Leyton Orient?" I'd be just like, "Oh my God,
be at it,
yeah."
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about you? What charity games have you done?
I've done a few. I've done like one for the Arsenal. I've done.
Do you get any ex-Arsenal players? Have you played with any ex-Arsenal players?
Yeah, I've done one when I actually played for the Arsenal charity side, which was really good. So I played with a few Arsenal players.
Who played?
Chris White played. Who else played? We had a few players playing.
Do you know what I find amazing? When I've really good, on the rare occasion on the rare occasion I've ever played with a professional. The difference I've found truly like amazing.
Yeah, I actually played when I played with Chris White. I played with Carter. I can't think of his second name. What's his name? Carter. Jimmy Carter,
the president.
Right, Jimmy Carter played right. Now he wasn't deemed as a fantastic player for Arsenal, but when I played with him, you thought, my God, he could play.
Yeah.
And what they've done was sometimes they don't mean to do it, but they take your confidence away because when you get the ball, I'll do this, do that, and things like that. But ultimately, when they see that you can play, they let you play.
Yeah.
They just the one I was playing with like someone like Chris White, of course, who went on to win the league at Leeds and played for Arsenal. Unbelievably, little fee, played 99 times for Arsenal.
Really?
Didn't get into quite the 100 club, so he can't get any free tickets at the Arsenal.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, because he didn't get 100 appearances.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. So if you get 100 appearances for Arsenal, you go in the 100 club. And that means you can play, you get tickets and all that. So, Chris
could
White
you
got
imagine
99.
being in that club? Like, could you imagine, like, say when Arsenal play Manchester United at the Emirates, being in that 100 club, you'd see some amazing, like, think of the players that you could be having, like,
they're going there. What it does, obviously I do know this, but like there's a list that goes around. So like because there's more than 100, and if it's your turn, if you can go, you go. If you pass it up, like
That'd be fantastic. You could be in there having a drink, and I suppose on one side you could have Robert Pires, on the other side, I don't know how many times did Stefan Schwartz play for him?
I don't think he might not.
Would he not have made
100,
it?
Like, you know what I mean? But Ian Wright obviously would be in there.
Amazing.
Paul Merson don't get invited in so much because he's been a bit of a critic of Arsenal. So
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's funny you bring him up. He's somebody who I rate. Sometimes history is fairly unkind to certain footballers because of who they are today. I think that people, because of the man that Merson is, and he's had his moments where he can't pronounce players' names and whatever. People perhaps think people perhaps don't give him the respect that he deserves because as a footballer, he was amazing.
He's one of my favourite players, Roy.
Really?
Yeah, he was a terrific player.
Really, my nan.
Chelsea fan.
My nan, he's a Chelsea fan. Yeah, my nan went out with his granddad.
Really?
Yes, my nan and his granddad were were courting, as she would say, because he's from Neasden, I think.
Around that way,
from North West London,
So I know that he's a Chelsea. Obviously, he's an Arsenal man now. People, will go on to that and go, "Oh, he's a Chelsea fan," and all that. But once you play for a club for so many years, you obviously get into that mode of it all. That, but Chelsea fan. He was
an amazing player. If you're ever bored on YouTube, do you know the one I watch? Paul Merson chips.
Oh.
Paul Merson chipping the keeper.
Oh.
It seemed to just do it on like a bi-weekly basis.
I remember the one. I think he'd done one against. I think it was Leeds. I can't remember who it was against, and you just think, my God, what a goal!
Yeah,
and he'd done that. He
was one of the main forces behind the Tuesday Club, wasn't he?
He was like part. He
was
of that.
The Tuesday Club.
He was part of that, like and the good old days, as they say. Like
I find that side of football, that culture of football, which has obviously been eradicated now. Like I found it amazing. During the Euros, when we were talking, I was reading an interview. I think it was Declan Rice and a couple of other players then said the same thing. The question that was put to them was, how would you celebrate if England win this tournament? And do you know what a lot of them said? I think Declan Rice started it, but others jumped on. Do you know what the answer was?
No.
I'm going to have my first ever beer. Like
really?
Declan Rice has got to be, 22?
Yeah, and hasn't had a beer.
Hasn't had a beer in his life.
So that's our football.
That's how it's changed.
When I was playing, you could have it was it was part of the game.
Yeah,
to have
totally.
a beer, socialise. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Nights out and things like that. Team bonding, they called it.
Yeah, but do you know what I found funny? I can't remember whose book I was reading. It might have been in Tony Adams' book actually. But he talks about the cultural difference. When Arsenal had the influx of French players.
Yeah,
the
foreign thing changed it.
I think the French players, the story went that the French players were looking at the English lads and going, these boys are drunks. How can they play football? And all the English lads were looking at the French lads going, all these geezers smoke. How can they possibly play football? Yeah,
and it changed. And it did change. Football changed. Like, you'd have grown up in both eras.
Yes.
Of that whole lot. So, like, how did you become a Chelsea fan? What was the reason?
There was no choice. It was just kind of taken from day one to Stamford Bridge. I mean, I can remember it vividly. It was actually my stepdad who introduced me to football. Really, he's a Chelsea fan, season ticket holder, cab driver. I remember it. I remember it vividly. We played Liverpool at home, and we won 1-0. Neil Shipley scored a goal past Bruce Grobbelaar. Past Bruce Grobbelaar, and I don't think it crossed the line. It's a little bit of a Jeff Hurst moment, but I don't think it crossed the line. And that was my first game. And it's funny because that sort of era, anything say post '93, I feel like I've got a really good recollection of. If you ask me who Chelsea's top goal scorer was last season, I would be a bit like,
why is
Jorginho,
that?
I think, was 7. But I wouldn't know. Whereas if you said to me, who did Chelsea play in the third round of the FA Cup in '94? I'd go, bang, Barnett. Glenn Hoddle's brother was manager. Straight away.
I'm like that.
Yeah.
I can go into the '90s. I reel off when we played, when the cup games, where it was.
Yeah.
And all that. 2 years ago, asked me things.
I know. It's so weird, isn't it?
Weird.
It's
what
so
is
weird.
that to do with?
I think it's when we were young. Like, firstly, I think we might be slowing up a bit, right?
That's what it is, isn't it?
We might be slowing up a bit, but I also think that when we were young, you were just like I remember I used to get a program and a fanzine. We had a fanzine called Onside, and no, that was our send out. Sorry, we had a fanzine called Red Card, and I remember I used to get them. And the train that I used to get, I used to take a lot. So the way to go from Fulham to Kilburn, the way to go if you want to go quick is via Edgware Road, up to Edgware Road, across to Baker Street, and up to Kilburn on the Jubilee. Or you can sit on a district for ages, get to Westminster, and then go up. But it will take you it's a long way. And I used to do that specifically
just to read the programme,
because I wanted to read. I'd read the programme cover to cover, and I'd read about Leon Knight, who was in our youth team. And I'd read about a guy called Junior Mendes, who I have no idea what he's ever done in football, but I remember his name because Junior Mendes was our kid, right, who was this amazing footballer. And I'd read that, and then I'd get as far as Westminster, and then I'd swap, and I'd go into the fanzine. Now, I don't think I've bought a programme for 2 decades.
No, I haven't bought a programme.
No.
I don't know when else. Like last time I did buy a programme, when you if you're lucky enough to get in hospitality, they give you.
Yeah.
I mean? But other than that, I don't. But I'll tell you what, when they do give you a programme, I don't read it now.
No,
like
I'd use the team sheet on the back.
Yeah, but you
find out who's playing fullback for Sheffield United. Or whatever.
You used to look at the youth team and see who's coming through, didn't you? You know what I mean. Used to when I was coming into the game, you'd see Kevin Campbell boshing goals in left, right, and centre for the youth team and things like that. And then you'd be thinking, when's he coming through? When's he going to be making his debut and all that? Now really, without being horrible, I don't really know who's in the youth team or not.
No, I mean it's just a new era, isn't it? Because I think also then that was our only insight into it. So at that point, you would have to buy the programme and find out that was where you'd get it.
Yeah.
Or you'd get your monthly newsletter sent through from the club and you'd get some information in there as well. And there'd be some you'd usually get a page from Dennis Wise telling you what's going on that I imagine was ghostwritten or whatever. Whereas now, it's kind of overload, isn't it, for football?
Yeah.
Like, I follow 24 Chelsea accounts on Twitter that each have access to various people, and in terms of the amount that we can now get, it's reached saturation point. I've got to the point now where I kind of switch off from it rather than switching on to it.
You know, it's so right. The internet has changed all things really. Because I used to get the paper religiously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can't remember the last time I read a paper like that.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, isn't it?
It's weird because you're now you're looking at your phone doing different things.
Because
we are changing.
Do you know what's changed as well, though? I'm slightly more old school and traditional here, but things that we used to pay for that were standard, like that my grandmother would pay for, wouldn't dream of not paying. News and music. If you want to listen to music, you buy the album. If you want some news, you buy a newspaper. They're now free, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, news is free. If I'm going to read a news article and it says behind a paywall, I just think I'll find another article.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly right. Yeah, and that's how you've changed. It's definitely right. Well, music, for instance, now.
Yeah, you wouldn't
has
dream of
completely
you wouldn't dream of buying an album with like paying £10 for an album.
No, you wouldn't do it like
Whereas
that.
when I was
CD or something, you'd never go
when
for
I
that
was
now.
young and I needed to buy Michael Jackson's Bad, I had to go to HMV on Oxford Street and
go and get it.
And get it, exactly.
Yeah,
it was an effort.
It's all completely changed. I have to say, and I think that's the same with football as well. And talking about football, it's completely changed a little bit. Arsenal and Chelsea.
The shift is
There is this thing now. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to be honest as you possibly can. You can turn around and say that Chelsea are more successful than Arsenal, and red is blue or blue is red, London is red, blue, whatever. But who's the bigger club? Are Arsenal still a bigger club?
Do you know what? To push for a definitive answer, I think together we can come up with an answer. But I think then we need to explore the conditioning here, because I think anybody who's ever watched any of my content prior to what happened in Porto 6 weeks ago, prior to that moment, what happened in Porto, I have always said Arsenal. And on any video that I've ever done, I've been working in YouTube now for 7 years. Nobody will ever find a clip of me saying that Arsenal are not the biggest club in London. That is something that I've stood by up until now. If you'd asked me this, if Chelsea didn't win the European Cup, I think I'd have probably gone Arsenal league, no dramas. Now, however, I think we need to have more of a discussion, because these things can't be set in stone forever.
No,
these things can't be set in
I'm
stone.
with you on that. I get that, and because you're exactly right what you're saying, because people will keep saying, "Oh, Arsenal never be a big club," but when you go back in the days, Huddersfield were a massive club. Blackpool were a massive club, but times
changed. Preston North End, weren't they? They were Preston North End, one of the founding.
So if Arsenal don't get their act together, it could really change.
I think now. I think that Chelsea, having won the European Cup twice, Chelsea being London's only representative in that exclusive club, Chelsea's success over the past 2 decades, I think has reset it. And if it hasn't reset it, I think when I was growing up, so through the mid-90s, Arsenal were there and Chelsea were there. I think what's happened over the years is it's gone to that, and it all started. I think the genesis of Chelsea being more relevant in this conversation, it was Wayne Bridge. Wayne Bridge changed everything.
The champion?
Yeah. Which stops you. Firstly,
well, we'd have won the Champions League.
Yeah.
We would have won the Champions League.
I'm glad you agree, because what I was about to say, I thought you were going to contest it actually, but I completely agree. Wayne Bridge stopped Arsenal winning the Champions League because Arsenal were the best team in Europe that year. They were the best team in the world that year, in fact.
I look back at that game. We lost it. Didn't lose it at Highbury. We lost it at Stamford Bridge.
1-1.
Yeah,
we had all the chances.
We had all the chances, and we come away 1-1. We should have come away with a win that day. And when I look back at that, I think to myself, right, there was always a doubt in my mind going to that game. You know, when
although
we went
1-1 with
1-0
an
up,
away,
it
1-1
didn't
with an
matter.
away goal you would have been fairly happy, wouldn't you? 1-1 with an away goal.
Yes, so you turn that, you
Yeah,
take round and say, yeah, we'll go with that, and then, but of course, then there's always a chance that Chelsea would score. When we went, if you remember rightly, we went 1-0 up. It still didn't really, you know, like. Yeah. But when it went 1-1, Lampard equalised. It then become, I think, it turned into Chelsea's favour.
Yes, because you know that a goal will end
would
it.
have done it.
Yeah.
And to get it in the last kick of the game.
Oh, I was at that game. Do you know, I was at university at the time, and I travelled back for it, and I was sat. You know, do you remember at the old Highbury, you'd have the clock end, which is where the bulk of the away fans would go.
Yeah.
And then you'd get like an additional little bit
on the side there, like. Yeah.
And I was in that additional little bit on the side, and I went into that game thinking that Chelsea had virtually no chance. Arsenal were fantastic.
Yeah.
Player for player, Arsenal were better. Arsenal had a better manager. Everything was set up for Arsenal to win. Arsenal already had the away goal. But Wayne Bridge played a 1-2 with Hernan Crespo. Wayne Bridge totally shifted the dynamic and structure of the London football scene. I truly believe that day changed it. Because also, do you know what followed on from that, Lee? Do you know the final that year was contested between, it was Monaco versus Porto.
And
Jose Mourinho's Porto.
Yeah.
But which then meant that Mourinho won the Champions League, Chelsea brought Mourinho in, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so
it all started with Wayne Bridge.
Yeah, and if you remember that game, like I remember the league game was a bit early in that. I think it was who was the blonde fella played for Chelsea?
Ida Johnson.
Yeah, he scored after a minute.
Yeah.
We come back on 1-2-1, and then it was the momentum was there again. Yeah. And you say that 1-1 game at Stamford Bridge, I think Perez scored.
It was Perez. Perez scored a header. Perez scored a header. Yeah,
it was 1-0 down and didn't
Matt,
play
see what I mean?
down.
See what you remember?
Yeah.
See what you remember?
Yeah.
I was like, Lampard scored there, Perez scored there with a header. I remember it was in front of the shed end. It was in front of the Arsenal fans. And I can remember all that. You said, who did Chelsea play on the last day of the season?
It's
Villa?
But that was a bad day because I felt that Arsenal team was, even though it was unbeaten and the Invincibles, it didn't.
It's an amazing compliment to Arsenal. Exactly. That's the amazing compliment that you can pay to that Arsenal team. Yeah. They went the year entirely unbeaten. They got the league in gold or whatever. But ultimately, it was fairly underwhelming because it was so good. It didn't win. Like it didn't even get 2 trophies. Like there are other Arsenal teams that have been better than that, or at least more successful than that. The previous year, Arsenal won a double, didn't they?
2002 side, I felt was fantastic side.
Yes.
When we won the double, I think it was as good as the Invincibles, but doesn't get the.
It doesn't get the recognition, despite the fact it won more.
Yeah, and it also went unbeaten away from home.
Which is very, very impressive,
like,
yeah.
You know, so and obviously beat Chelsea in the final that year, like you know. So,
but do you know what? That was Ray Parlour and Freddie Ljungberg. Yeah. In Cardiff. Yeah. I remember going to that.
Yeah, as it happens in the FA Cup against Arsenal in finals.
Yeah, we're terrible.
Yeah, we've got a great record against you.
No, do you know what? Do you know there are certain clubs in certain competitions that you're fearful of, kind of irrespective of anything. For example, nobody in Europe would want to play Liverpool in the Champions League.
Yeah, because
Liverpool in the Champions League are terrifying. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter who their manager is. It doesn't matter if up front it's Ryan Babel. It doesn't matter if in midfield it's Vladimir Švica. They're brilliant in Europe. They're scary. Arsenal are that in the FA Cup.
Yeah, it's really freaky. I think last 3 times we've won it, and I think 2002, we was definite favourites, but like the
last 2 we should have beat you.
The last two we should have beat. On paper, and
the year most recent was painful. The Lampard one. Because we went 1-0 up as well. Pulisic scored early.
Yeah.
And then we just got Aubameyang'd. We just totally got Aubameyang'd. Yeah. But then the one before that, we'd won the league. But that was to our detriment because we'd won the league. We were on for a double. You stopped us doing a double.
That was nice. That was Aaron Ramsey.
It's massive to do that.
So,
but do you know what? All of that we were discussing there, I think it all feeds into your initial question, which is, like, for want of a better phrase, I kind of find this phrase a bit nonsensical, but let's go with it. Is London blue or red? And I think that everything that we're discussing, the 2 European Cups, do you know the other thing that needs to be taken into account here? Baku. It's big though, isn't it? You know when we're weighing this up, 4-1 in a European final, man.
Well, listen, that was, Chelsea played well that day, but I have to say Arsenal were poor. But
But 4-1 in a European final when discussing
Actually,
is Arsenal is
kept
sorry.
us at bay really because it stopped us getting Champions League that year, which is probably even bigger than the actual trophy itself.
Totally. And do you know what else it did? I think Arsenal fans are going to generally disagree with me, and I imagine you will as well. And I do hold my hands up. I totally concede Arsenal fans know their club better than me. But from the outside looking in, had Arsenal won that, Unai Emery would have won a trophy in his first year. It could have, I think Unai Emery is a decent manager. It didn't work for Arsenal, but it can work like that. It can work like that. But I think Unai Emery is a better manager than Mikel Arteta.
I'm not going to argue with that. That's another debate. But what I would say about Emery and where he failed that day, and I always think this was a big, massive thing for Chelsea on that day, is that Chelsea went into that secure Champions
the pressure
League
was off.
football.
Yeah.
So I think if Arsenal had done the business which they should have done against Crystal Palace or
Brighton, wasn't
and
it?
got themselves
Yeah.
into the Champions League, I think it would have been a different final. But I think there was just too much pressure on Arsenal and, Chelsea and, shall I say, a certain Oliver Giroud took advantage of it.
I mean,
Can you stop giving us crap players as well, please? That's another thing.
No, I can't make that promise to you. I will not. I will not make that pledge. I hope we continue to do it.
Oh dear, we've had some raw deals and that,
Yeah, but with all of that in mind, Lee, when we're kind of weighing this up, you've currently got the Arsenal that are the team that they are today. It's very difficult for me to process because, like I've said, in my head, Arsenal were that club. They were when I was a kid. They were that club, and it's hard to not see the team that you grew up with as the team they are today. But think about the club that Arsenal are today. If you just look at it face value.
Yeah, listen.
How can they possibly be bigger than Chelsea when Chelsea are the European Cup? It just doesn't make tangible sense.
I will say, Liverpool were a massive club for me when growing up. They were the team, but they've kept that big club status. Would you say Chelsea and Liverpool?
But what Liverpool managed to do, even in the barren years in the Premier League, they punctuated it with regular success. Yeah.
And I think that's a great point, and not just regular success, Champions League, Europe, and all.
Yeah.
Now, listen, when I was growing up, Rory, as far as I was concerned, Arsenal and Spurs were the two biggest clubs in London.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that's changed? Now, do you feel that?
Yeah.
Do you think Tottenham are not in that equation?
No, Tottenham aren't in that. Tottenham aren't in that.
Is that because of not winning trophies, or?
Yeah, I mean, I find it very difficult, the Tottenham thing. I find it very difficult to kind of get...
Because you've got a great rivalry with Tottenham. Chelsea is a massive rivalry.
Yeah, that is the hateful rivalry. It's a very spiteful away day. It's not one I especially enjoy. And it is actually one that I may consider doing. May have to really weigh up, do I go there anymore? It's not been a pleasurable experience. And I mean, on some level, nor should it be. They're trying to...
Why is that rivalry between Chelsea and Tottenham come about?
I think... Do you know where I think it actually stems from? I think it's like a byproduct of the more aggressive element of supporters. I think that Chelsea and Tottenham at one point were very active on that hooligan scene. And I think that has maintained today. I think that when you hear Tottenham fans talking about Chelsea, it is the day that they look forward to in terms of that. When Chelsea play Tottenham, I mean, Chelsea could play Tottenham at Stamford Bridge, and there'll be a huge problem 2 miles away from the ground. It's that kind of organised trouble.
I never realised that.
Yeah, it's got quite a spiteful element to it. But no, in terms of Tottenham, the big club thing, I find it quite comical, to be frank. When you go to Tottenham,
feel free to say.
When you go to Tottenham, obviously we've both been there many times. I've seen Chelsea score 6 there, and I've seen Chelsea concede 5 there. So I've seen both. But peppered around the ground, it's all the game is about glory. You're like, really? Because you've won 2 League Cups since 1991. You've won 2 League Cups. All this, we're a big club, we're the biggest club. Imagine thinking you're a big club because your great granddad saw you win a double.
Yeah, but they're argued to the cows come home that they are. I think for me, it's a great debate.
But Tottenham aren't in it. Yeah, Tottenham really.
Chelsea and Arsenal's a great debate. I don't see it with Tottenham, but
Tottenham are clearly I'm not being foolish here. Tottenham are clearly third. Like Tottenham are a bigger club than West Ham. If we're trying, I mean, it's a fairly difficult thing to quantify, but I'd say that Tottenham occupy the next spot after the Chelsea and Arsenal debate. But they're certainly not in the. They're certainly not in the debate top 2.
Because I always say, one of the things that always says about if Arsenal at this moment in time having a real bad time of it, like, you know, and it's highlighted so much more, and that is because it's a big club. Like Liverpool, when they weren't winning the league, it's highlighted because they're a big club. Like, you know, Spurs, you know, I don't think that is, you know, and for me, listen, you know, going back in the day, Roy, and this is where things have changed. You had players leaving Chelsea to go to Spurs because they was thinking it was a bigger sort of thing for the club, and also
big
Spurs
names,
players.
The big names like Cunde and
Jason Cunde. Jason Cunde actually, you know, he's a Chelsea fan, isn't he? But he actually left Spurs because it was probably, you know, the bigger club at that site, at that stage. That's how well it's changed.
No, Jury was the one that upset us. Jury was the one that upset a lot of Chelsea fans. Slightly older than me, but Jury was the one. My generation would have been Gus Poyet. That was
because he went.
Lots of people see Gus Poyet
coming towards the end, so he went to Spurs.
Lots of people see Gus Poyet as Judas.
Really?
They beat us. I think it would have been 2002. They beat us in the League Cup semi-final. I think we might have drew 1-1 at home, and then we got absolutely battered away at a time. Do you remember 3-point lane and all that when Chelsea didn't lose? Like, I think Chelsea went like huge. I think it was 28 years at Stamford Bridge that Tottenham didn't win for. And like, you know, when Tottenham fans will say, "Oh, you know, it's all about Abramovich," you're like, mate, until Dele Alli scored until Dele Alli scored, the last person to score a winner at Stamford Bridge was Gary Lineker for Tottenham. You know, like it was a long period. And we had a huge record at Tottenham as well, where we'd scored 6 one year when Torre Flo scored a hat-trick. We just didn't lose there at all. But we went there in the cup and they battered us. And Gus Poyet was subbed for them. He was playing for them at the time. Gus Poyet was subbed. I think they were 5-1 up. And as he was going off, he was just kissing the badge. It was all that.
Gus,
so what are you doing, Gus? You scored one of the best goals I've ever seen for Chelsea. Scored a winner for us in a Super Cup final. We beat Real Madrid in a Super Cup in '98, and Gus Poyet scored the winner. Like, I love you, Gus. What are you doing here? But do you know what? Do you know another thing to just bring into the debate here? I've just said about that Super Cup. Do you know where Arsenal, you know, in terms of the big club thing, do you know where Arsenal really do punch below their weight? Europe,
we've been poor in
Terrible.
Terrible. We've never really done well in Europe for a very, very long while, and that's something that has to be addressed.
Tell you the dream.
We've got to get into Europe, like, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you the dream. Do you know when I was a kid, right? Chelsea lost the FA Cup final in '94. We got into because Manchester United won the league, they went into the Champions League. We then played in the Cup Winners' Cup, and you must have won the cup that year. No, you must have.
No, we won the Cup.
You won the Cup Winners' Cup the previous year. Do you know what we were on for in the semi-final? It was on for an all-London final in Copenhagen.
But you blew it.
But we blew it against Gus Poyet's Real Zaragoza.
Because they beat us in the final.
Yeah, Naeem.
Naeem Sampdoria in the semi-final.
You beat Sampdoria.
On penalties.
Yes, you beat Sampdoria. I remember Seaman saying,
it could have been a Chelsea Arsenal.
We were on for an all-London Cup Winners' Cup final. Yeah, we were robbed of that. That would have been. I think was it Paris, that final?
Yeah, in Paris. Yeah.
Then that's where your other final was. Your Champions.
All right, Rory. You won't be coming on here again. I'll tell you. So right, we're coming to the part now where Rory, this is court in order, and my gavel.
Not guilty, Your Honour.
Do you want to touch my gavel? You can if you want to. No, you feel free if you want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit you with quick 5 questions before I come down with the hammer,
right,
or the gavel, should I say? You have to answer. If you don't, could be repercussions, and you could be off to
clink. End up in the scrubs.
In the scrubs. First question: Conte or Mourinho?
Antonio Conte. There's no debate here, actually. Antonio Conte.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll elaborate on it.
I adore Antonio Conte.
That.
Mourinho. We're judging this, bearing in mind we're having this conversation in 2021. Therefore, the answer is Antonio Conte. Think about what Antonio Conte has achieved. Think about Mourinho at Tottenham. It all went so wrong. Antonio Conte was Chelsea manager when Jose Mourinho was Manchester United manager. We had the beating of them. We beat them in the FA Cup final. We beat them 4-0 at Stamford Bridge. We knocked them out of the cup the previous year. Antonio Conte versus Mourinho, there really isn't. It really isn't a debate. Antonio Conte landed at Chelsea and took a club that finished 10th the previous season to the Premier League. He made Premier League winners out of Victor Moses and Marcos Alonso. He also started the era of dominance that Juventus had in Serie A. He then ended the series of dominance that they had when he went back to Inter Milan. I just think Antonio Conte is top tier. And do you know what? I was truly fearful when it looked like he was going to go to Tottenham, because that was the right answer for them.
Don't. Right, second question. Kante or Makaleli?
Oh, you're making me choose between like two of my idols, Kante or Makaleli. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because Claude Makaleli is the only player to have had a position named after him. Like, you can play the Makaleli role, can't you?
Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought of that.
And without the way that Makaleli kind of regenerated and reshaped in midfield, I don't know that you even have opportunities for the likes of Kante. However, I think N'Golo Kante is one of the best players I've ever seen play. And as much as I adore Makaleli, I think Makaleli started it, but what N'Golo Kante has done is revolutionise the Makaleli role, and therefore just N'Golo Kante.
This is going to be a tough one, right? Okay, so the gravel might not go down quickly enough for this one. Right. Gavel. Zola or Hazard?
Oh, I mean, this sounds difficult on the surface, but it's actually not at all. I mean, the answer to this is Gianfranco Zola.
You sure?
Yeah, 100%. The answer is definitely Gianfranco Zola. Eden Hazard could do everything with the football. Some of the goals that he scored were unlike anything I've ever seen. I don't know, if you're ever bored, you've got to look at a goal that he scored at Anfield in the League Cup, a goal that he scored at West Ham, against West Ham at Stamford Bridge, the year that we won in Baku. That just before we played in Baku, he scored a goal against West Ham, unlike anything I've ever seen. The way that he could move on the ball, the grace that he showed. However, Gianfranco Zola is one of the best players who've ever played the game. He's a mesmerising player. With Eden Hazard, as good as he was, there were moments where he wasn't good enough. He had an entire season off. The year that Mourinho got sacked. Yeah, the year that he was at the year,
hasn't he, Dave?
Yeah, under Mourinho, he had an entire season off. Gianfranco Zola warmed my heart. He did things with the football I've never seen before. He elevated Chelsea from a decent cup side to genuine contenders for the Premier League, and he is probably the most graceful and skillful footballer. In terms of giving someone the ball, what can they do with the ball at their feet? I don't think we've ever seen anything like, or will ever see anything like, what Gianfranco Zola could do.
Zola it is then. Right. You can relegate one of these three teams. Arsenal, Spurs, or dirty Leeds United.
Can I go for all of the above? Relegate a lot?
Only one.
If I'm relegating any of them, I think I quite like Arsenal in the Premier League. I like tradition, and Arsenal have never been relegated. I mean, there's elements of corruption as to why, but that's another story. But Arsenal have never been relegated, and therefore I quite like that. I like them being there. Leeds United, I think the Premier League is a richer place with Leeds United in it. A strong contender from Yorkshire. There was a strong long period, wasn't there, where there was nobody from Yorkshire in the Premier League. Yeah. And I like going to Elland Road. There's something in it. It's a special place to go. And I mean, there's no debate. Relegate Tottenham, and it's not one of those where you kind of go relegate for a year. You know, certain clubs you go relegate for a year, but it'd be nice to have them back.
Forever.
Yeah. I'm very happy to. I'm very happy to relegate Tottenham for
We've got one more question left. We haven't got this one, so I'm going to think of one here off the top of my head. It's going to go for cricket. All right?
Okay,
we're going to go for one for cricket. You know, I know you like a little bit of cricket.
I do. I love a day at Lord's.
Like I love a day at Lord's. So, what cricket team do you follow, if any, and who's your favourite ever cricketer?
Do you know? It's harder than you thought, wasn't it? It's heavier than you thought it was going to be. Well, the other day I was at Lord's. I went to the 100. And therefore I'm a London Spirit man at the moment.
Yeah, but they've just underperformed. Come on, like.
So
would you
say
I'd
be a Middlesex man.
Middlesex man.
I'd be a Middlesex man if any. I live fairly close to Lord's, and I thoroughly enjoy a day. I've got a tradition. We should try and do together. I've got a tradition where I will go to the first day of every Lord's test. So day one at Lord's,
great day.
I go,
yes,
and do you know what I have 100% record doing? Like
getting drunk.
I've got 100% record doing that. But there's a tradition at Lord's. I'm just briefly tell you in case you don't know, the people watching. There's a tradition where when you can take in a bottle of champagne, when you open the cork, you pop the cork you're allowed to try and get the cork from wherever you're sat onto the field of play.
I never knew that.
So when you open your champagne, you can take a bottle in. If you take a bottle of fizz in, Like if you've got the Runar in there with you, right? Open your bottle, pop the cork. The tradition is get it onto the pitch. The stewards make a token gesture to tell you not to do it, but it's tradition and therefore it's different. It's like Chelsea fans throwing celery. You're not really meant to do it. You're not supposed to take celery into the football ground, but it's part of our rich heritage. And this is a similar thing with Lords. I have, regardless of where I'm sat, I've been in the pavilion and I've 100% hit the green.
Oh, that's quality, Well,
we'll do that together.
We'll do that, 100%. Like, you're buying the champagne, you know what I mean? So there you go. Rory, listen, thanks for coming down.
Hey, it's been an honour.
It's been a real pleasure having you on and talking Chelsea, reminiscing as well. Like I say, it's been great. So listen, thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget, hit the like, subscribe, all that stuff. Otherwise, you'll get the gavel.
It's Lee Judges TV for all my gooners, all my gunners. Yeah, you know where to be. Subscribe to the channel, cause you know it's a lot with the legendary judges and the one damn pots.